When you're launching a freelance business, careful planning and preparation are important until they aren't. In fact, one of the most egregious mistakes new freelance writers make is to overplan and over prepare. This is especially true with new freelance copywriters. That's a difficult thing for me to say because I'm a planner. I'm great at it. I can plan a road trip or vacation like no one else I know. And back before the days of GPS, I would carefully plan and map out our long distance drives like a champ. But it's not just the act of planning that I enjoy. I want to be ready to tackle any challenge that comes my way. So my natural tendency is to study and to plan as much as possible before taking any meaningful action. But after launching a successful freelance business and coaching more than 250 new freelance writers and copywriters, you start noticing some glaring patterns. And I've concluded that over preparing is counterproductive. It often leads to failure and to disappointment. Now, don't misunderstand me. Planning and preparation are both essential, but many new freelancers take it too far. Let's look at how many people approach their launch. First, they study general copywriting fundamentals. Next, they study, let's say, B2B copywriting fundamentals. Then they agonize over which types of projects they're going to focus on. They'll then take a specialized course on how to write white papers, for example. Then they'll take another specialized course on how to write online copy. Then they'll obsess and agonize over their niche decision. What should my niche be? And then they spent 2 months creating an info kit for prospective clients. And then they'll spend another 2 months putting up their website. Then they'll take one more specialized course on how to write case studies, just in case. Then they'll finally start prospecting for clients, and then eventually they'll land a client. And then at that point, they'll refer to their copywriting course library to complete the project they just landed. Now, this is not an exact representation of how every new copywriter approaches his or her launch. It's a general summary of the general approach I see so many new folks taking. It's especially common among new freelancers who don't have, let's say, a journalism or writing background. They can already write well, but they're learning the craft of copywriting for the first time. And the bottom line is, as you can see, this approach involves a lot of steps and a lot of time. You'll also notice something interesting. The time and effort involved follows an inverted pyramid shape. So in this model, new copywriters will spend a large amount of time learning the fundamentals of their craft and taking specialized copywriting courses. But when it comes to the business building elements of their launch, especially prospecting for clients, the tendency is to spend less time in those activities or just to put them off as long as possible. The logic behind spending so much time studying the craft is that the more you know about the craft, the better you'll be. And the better you'll be, the more business you'll potentially land, right? Well, not exactly. Yes, it's important to learn the fundamentals of copywriting. Very important, in fact. It's also imperative to practice your craft. You have to know what you're doing. You can't just make it up. But this approach also leads to a number of challenges. First, it breeds procrastination. And that's because you'll never feel you'll know enough to get out there. So you keep studying. It's a moving target. It's a treadmill. You learn something new, and then you realize that there's more to learn. So you avoid building your business until you learn the next skill. Before you're even done learning that skill, you realize there's still more to learn. So you take more courses, you read more books, you do more planning, and so the cycle goes. The second problem is you can't possibly retain all this information. You're not a computer. You're going to forget most of the material if you don't apply it quickly. And if you don't get client projects, you won't get to apply it. If you haven't landed your first client yet, here's something you're going to learn very soon. The best way to learn and retain your skills is to work on a copywriting project for a client, not as part of a course for a client. That's when the information you studied will really sink in. That's when you're finally going to integrate all these ideas into your core. The third problem with this standard approach is that you'll quickly get overwhelmed. Immersing yourself in books, courses, webinars, and articles, yes, there's benefit there, no doubt. It can also create an incredible amount of anxiety and stress, though. And I should know. I took the courses when I was getting started. I attended a ton of webinars and teleseminars. I also built a massive library of 3-ring binders full of printed articles on copywriting and on content marketing. Every article was highlighted and notated. My goal was to read and reread every article and report in order to kind of memorize and integrate all these great ideas. In fact, when we moved a few years ago, I came across boxes full of these binders, and I was just shocked by all the information I collected. Looking back, no wonder I was so stressed and overwhelmed during that time. Going deeper and wider with information is also a proven recipe for losing your focus and direction. You'll quickly get lost in the forest, and before you know it, you'll forget your goals and your purpose for your freelancing business. Finally, this approach will very likely lead to serious disappointment because after a while, you'll inevitably start equating studying with progress. In other words, the more you learn and study, the better off you are. At least that's the mindset that many of us have adopted for decades. I mean, think about it. If you went to college or to university, this is the basic formula. The basic formula you learn, the paradigm you were going with was study hard, plus learn a lot, plus get good grades equals land a good job making decent money. Yet, when new hardworking freelance copywriters finally get out there and realize that clients aren't lined up outside their door, the whole thing seems so unfair. But I studied so hard, they tell themselves, not recognizing that after a certain point, more information, more studying is not the answer. After a certain point, studying and learning don't get you what you ultimately want, which is paying clients. There's a better path to success in this business as a freelance writer or copywriter, and I like to call it rapid prototyping. Rapid prototyping is a set of techniques used in manufacturing to quickly fabricate a scale model of a physical part or assembly. It's also widely used in Silicon Valley to test multiple products and concept ideas and to iterate much faster and with less risk. The goal is to spend considerably less time, money, and resources finding the right solution or the right business model or the right product or approach that's actually going to work. So instead of front-ending all of the planning, all the studying and preparation, you instead spend just enough time preparing a prototype of the product, concept, or business model. You then go out there and put it to the test. You assess results, and you make refinements based on what worked and what didn't work. From there, you continue to iterate until you find the best solution, and then you rinse and repeat. This is how so many startups can get products and ideas to market faster and with less risk and capital. They spend just enough time developing the idea before testing it out in the market. Now, I found that you can take a very similar approach when launching a freelance writing or copywriting business. And rather than spending years learning and training on your craft before you go to market, you spend enough time developing a basic level of competence. From there, you work hard to land 1 or 2 clients, just so you can apply that knowledge as quickly as possible. And you use what you learn from that experience in order to refine what you study next or what type of writing projects you pursue. So conceptually, here's what the steps might look like, just so you can compare them with the initial steps that most new writers and copywriters take when they're preparing and launching. First, you study general copywriting fundamentals. That doesn't change. Then you study B2B copywriting fundamentals. Then you take, instead of continuing down that rabbit hole, you take a deep professional inventory to decide on your starting positioning. You then put up a website and you treat it as a first iteration only. You're not going for perfection. You prospect for clients. You eventually land your first client. Then you refer to your copywriting course library to complete the work because you realize, hey, there's no way I can memorize all that stuff. And when I'm really going to learn it is once I have a real client project. And then from there, you assess, refine, and iterate. So notice that you, again, start with the same basic steps as many people start with. You fill your knowledge gaps as needed, but then you quickly move into marketing your services and finding a client or two. Now, these clients don't have to be impressive. In fact, they probably will not be impressive. They can be people you know, and you don't even need to charge a fee for your first 2 or 3 projects. The important thing is that you get out there and you apply what you're learning in a real world situation. Not only will you accelerate your mastery of the subject, but you'll also learn what it's like to work with a client on an actual writing assignment, something you can't learn from a book or from taking an online course. If you're worried that you'll make a fool out of yourself, hey, perfectly normal to feel that way. But as long as you've done a good job with the first 2 steps without overdoing it, you'll probably surprise yourself and your client. Another way to think of this approach is ready, fire, aim. And that's a concept we've discussed numerous times in my podcast and in the blog. Notice that the effort and time pyramid that corresponds to this approach is inverted because you're spending less time planning and preparing and more time taking action, getting out there, looking for clients, working on projects, and iterating as needed. Maybe your first couple of projects were blog articles. Well, let's just say that initially you thought you'd enjoy that kind of writing, but after working with 2 clients on their blogs, you realize now that you're not cut out for short copy projects, or you just don't really enjoy blogging. You'd rather work on longer format articles, reports, and white papers. No problem. You'll learn that early so you can simply reposition yourself to go after that kind of work. Or maybe you initially positioned yourself to write case studies for healthcare companies. But after prospecting like a champ, you haven't been able to land a single case study project. Every client has asked you to help them with something else, maybe with a brochure or a sales sheet or a website copy, maybe a few short reports. And as you took on these projects, you realized how much you enjoyed writing them. So you shifted your focus to finding and landing more of that work that you seem to land fairly easily. Now, the interesting thing is you wouldn't have known any of this had you not put yourself out there earlier than normal, earlier than you felt comfortable with. A coaching client of mine originally positioned herself as a copywriter for the education market. But as I nudged her to start prospecting before she felt 100% ready, she landed clients who hired her for her ability to write persuasively in the client's voice and for her extensive business experience. They really were valuing the experience in business she was bringing to the table. Now, these clients who were hiring her were not in the education field, but that was okay. She took them on anyway. And now she's starting to see that maybe this education industry angle that she's been highlighting on her website not as effective as she originally thought. Might not be the way to go. Time will tell where she's going to end up, but I suspect that this client activity will take her down a different path. And because she's enjoying the work, and that's key, and she's enjoying these clients, I bet that in a few months she's going to revise her positioning and her website copy to better reflect where she's actually getting traction with clients. Now, this is not a new idea, this concept of rapid prototyping and of just pivoting based on what you learn early on in the process. When you look at successful businesses, most of them didn't start out selling the products and services they sell today or doing things the way they do now. Starbucks, for instance, started out selling coffee beans and coffee equipment. Pixar was originally a computer company. 3M began as a mining operation. Nintendo started out selling playing cards. And in episode 39 of my High Income Business Writing podcast, I share the story of how serendipity, spurred by a big dream and steady execution, took the founder of the restaurant chain Chipotle on a completely different path from his original plan. These companies pivoted in the right direction once they got out there. No amount of studying, planning, or focus group sessions could have put them on the best possible course. They had to put themselves out there first. In episode 127 of High Income Business Writing, my coaching client, Hannah Glenn, talked about how she successfully refined her target market once she finally launched. It only happened once she got out there. She also explained why it would have been much harder to find the right niche without taking action and employing this rapid prototyping concept. So here's the harsh truth. Prospecting for clients is scary. Talking with potential clients is scary. Quoting a project is scary. Landing the project and writing the copy are scary. And for many of us, these things are beyond scary. They're terrifying. Taking another copywriting course, reading another book, or getting yet another certification Those things are easy as pie when compared to getting way out of your comfort zone and doing the really scary stuff. But amazing things happen only when you get out of your comfort zone. That's when you get your results. That's when your business starts taking shape. And that's when you start getting somewhere. It's time to stop planning. There's a very good chance that you already know what you need. So just pack your bags and get in the car. You'll figure it out as you go. This has been Ed Gandia with High Income Business Writing. For more tips and strategies on how to earn more in less time doing work you love for better clients, visit b2blauncher.com.